Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga are three of the most popular areas in Tennessee that people are moving to, and they all have a lot to offer, but they're pretty different. So we're going to dive in and take a look at what each one has to offer. Nashville is the largest one right in the middle of the state. It's the capital of Tennessee, and then you have Chattanooga and Knoxville over on the eastern side of the state. This is the borders of Tennessee right through here. So Nashville is the largest one, and then over on the east side, you have the Smoky Mountains, which run right through here. The Smoky Mountains is a large tourist destination for people across the world, really, and that's a cool thing to have on the east side. You know, if you're in Knoxville, really close by to that, you also have mountain ranges that run through here and over through here, so right outside Chattanooga. So over on the east side, there's a ton of outdoor activities with the mountains. There's also a bunch of lakes in the area. You have multiple lakes within just a 20 to 30 minute drive of Knoxville. You have one lake next to Chattanooga. You actually have a couple lakes next to Nashville as well. But the outdoor activities on the east side are a big part of it. And then Chattanooga and Knoxville themselves have a lot to offer. And then over in Nashville, you do have some outdoor activities, beautiful terrain over there as well with the rolling hills. You just don't have the large mountains like over on the east side. But there's a ton to do in Nashville itself, tons of great restaurants, tons of different entertainment options. And so each one has a bunch to offer, so we'll dive in and we're gonna take a look at some of the small towns that surround these areas as well, because I know a lot of people are looking to move to one of the smaller towns, but we will take a look at the downtown areas first. So Nashville, the downtown area is, like I said, quite a bit bigger than Knoxville or Chattanooga. This is kind of the true downtown area of Nashville right through here. Actually really kind of goes out through here. But downtown Nashville has a ton to do. The most well-known area is Broadway, kind of right through the middle there. And Broadway is really the large entertainment area of Nashville. And it's honestly one of the biggest entertainment areas in the country. That's really a pretty big tourist destination. So a lot of people come to visit Nashville for that, but also just a cool area to have if you live close by to Nashville. So Broadway has all of the all the country music stars have their venues on Broadway, and it's a lot of live music. So you can go down there really any time of day. You can go down there in the middle of the day on a weekday, and there's going to be live music at all these venues. There's going to be tons of people everywhere. And then you're also going to have, great restaurants and shopping nearby. There's an area called 5th and Broadway, right off Broadway, with a bunch of, shops. You have all kinds of restaurants. So a lot of stuff to do down there as far as entertainment. And then you also have the Titans Stadium over here, and they're actually building a brand new stadium. So you have the professional football team. You also have Bridgestone Arena right there in downtown as well, where you have the professional hockey team. So a lot of different entertainment options in downtown Nashville. There are also quite a few corporate headquarters in Nashville. You actually have, Amazon doesn't have their corporate headquarters, but Amazon has a couple really large corporate offices right here in this area. And then you have the Oracle headquarters is right up there somewhere. You also have Pinnacle Bank has their headquarters there. And a bunch of other businesses around the downtown area. So Nashville is a city that has a ton of entertainment options. It also has the corporate offices. And then in addition to that, of course, you have tons of restaurants, tons of great coffee shops, breweries, all kinds of stuff to do. So when you look at Nashville compared to the other cities in Tennessee, it's really the one that kind of offers everything that a true, major city would offer. If you go downtown to one of these other cities on a weekday, you're kind of going to walk around. There's not going to be a whole lot going on. But downtown Nashville, like I said, you walk around, there's tons of business going on, tons of people that work downtown. You have all the entertainment down there. And then you also have a lot of great apartments and lofts downtown. So there are, a lot of people that live in downtown Nashville. And that's one of the other things that I wanted to mention. If you want to live downtown, Nashville is one of the places where you have access to everything you need on a daily basis. So you're going to have, for example, like a Whole Foods grocery store right downtown. You're going to have all the other shopping that you need right there. For example, if you lived over in Knoxville, you're going to have to go out to the suburbs to get to a grocery store, things like that. But Nashville has everything right there. So if you want really that true urban kind of environment, then Nashville is going to be the one that offers that. Over here on the east side, we'll take a look at Knoxville first. And the drive to get from Nashville over here to Knoxville is about 2.5 hours. So that's the distance between the two. And by the way, Nashville has an international airport. Knoxville and Chattanooga do not have international airports, so they're a little bit smaller. So usually from Knoxville or Chattanooga, you're going to be connecting through Atlanta, which is the larger airport nearby. And by the way, Atlanta is right down here. So Atlanta to get up into Chattanooga is just a couple hours.
to get from Knoxville to Atlanta, it's about 3.5 hours. So just to give you an idea for where the closest really large airport is, Atlanta's one of the largest in the country, but Nashville does have an international airport as well. Diving in and looking at the Knoxville downtown. So Nashville is a really popular city, very well-known downtown area, but Knoxville also has a really cool downtown, although it's much smaller. So Knoxville here, if you are moving from a major city, Knoxville is gonna feel really like a small town. And if you look at it compared to Nashville, just walking around downtown in the middle of the week, you're really not gonna see a whole lot of people like I mentioned. So there are some businesses down there, there are some corporate offices down there. People of course work in downtown Knoxville, but it is kind of a lot more busy on evenings and weekends. So a lot of what downtown Knoxville is just an entertainment area with shopping, dining, restaurants, different entertainment venues, theaters, things like that. So when you live in downtown Knoxville, for example, if you want to get out to a big grocery store, you got to go out to the suburbs. Now there are a lot of great places to live in downtown. It's just not really kind of like an all-inclusive area to live like downtown Nashville is. So Knoxville has a ton of great restaurants, a lot of great coffee shops, breweries. One of the cool spots is here in the middle called Market Square. Market Square is a walkable area with a bunch of those shops and restaurants around the outside. It's where the city is going to have a bunch of events, farmers markets, different, music events, all kinds of stuff will go on in Market Square. So that's kind of like the center of the downtown area. And then you have, a lot of other areas where you're going to have, again, for the size that Knoxville is, tons of great restaurants, tons of great shopping, coffee shops, all that kind of stuff. So Knoxville really is more of an entertainment type feel than it is an area where you truly have everything you need to live or an area where a ton of people work. But as far as the different entertainment options in downtown, like I said, Market Square is one of the big places where people will go hang out. And then the surrounding area, there's a lot of events that will go on down there. You also have the Knoxville Smokies, the minor league baseball team for the area. They have a brand new stadium in downtown, which has a bunch of other cool stuff around it. You also have the University of Tennessee right next to it. So there's no professional teams in Knoxville, but obviously the University of Tennessee has some very large sports programs. Of course, the football team, the baseball team, the basketball team. So if you are a sports fan, no professional team, but those games are really fun to go to, and that is right next to downtown as well. And by the way, a lot of people will ask, is Knoxville a college town? Because the university is right over here, and a lot of people know that the University of Tennessee is in Knoxville, and the reality is you could live in Knoxville and never really associate with the university or never really deal with it in any way. You can kind of live out in the suburbs or ever in downtown and not really even acknowledge its existence. But it is big. Game day weekends, you're going to have to acknowledge the fact that there's a football game on the weekends. If you try to get into downtown on a game day, traffic's going to be horrible. It's going to be a pain to get around. So game days, football game days, home games are a big deal. But other than that, you can live there, and it really, it has a little bit of a college town feel, like if you're right there around the university. But for the most part, living around the rest of the city, it does not really have that much of a college town feel. So if you like sports, cool to have that nearby. But if you don't really care about it, you don't really have to worry about it. The next town is Chattanooga, and like I said, just about an hour and 45 minutes away to get down to Chattanooga from Knoxville. Chattanooga is smaller, so the metro population of Knoxville just under 900,000. The metro population of Chattanooga is just under 600,000. So it is significantly smaller than Knoxville, but when you look at the downtown itself, the downtown is actually larger. And to zoom out for a second here, if you look over here, this is a very mountainous area. And that's one of the really cool things about Chattanooga. There are some communities that sit right up on top of those mountains that are really cool. But what that means is that side of Chattanooga has essentially no development, so everybody lives over on the other side. So even though the population is smaller, the downtown area of Chattanooga is actually about twice as big as Knoxville. So zooming in here, you can see that the downtown area kind of runs from here over through here, and you're gonna have the riverfront. One of the cool things that stands out about Chattanooga is actually the riverfront. So Knoxville and Nashville also have rivers that run right through downtown. But Chattanooga has really done a good job of taking advantage of the riverfront and making it a really cool area to hang out. So the first thing to mention about Chattanooga compared to Knoxville is there's more right there in downtown. It's about twice as big. And then you also have
a couple of grocery stores just over on the north side of the river. So over on this side, you have a Whole Foods, you have a Publix. So you can live right there pretty much in downtown and have those grocery stores right by. So it's a little bit of a more livable area. Again, a lot of people live in Knoxville. Downtown Knoxville. It's a cool place to live. But if you want to have an area that has everything that you're going to need on a daily basis, then Chattanooga is going to offer that a little bit better. Chattanooga is similar to Knoxville though, in that when you are in downtown on a weekday, just during the day, you can walk around. There's going to be some people, people work downtown. Obviously, there's some offices down there, but there's not a ton going on. There's not a ton of people that live down there. There's not a ton of business offices or corporate offices down there like there are in Nashville. So, walking around downtown Chattanooga during the day, not going to be quite as crowded, but then on the evenings and weekends, there are going to be a lot more people. So it has a little bit of that feel again where, in Nashville, a lot of people are going to be there during the day for work. A lot of people live down there. And then Chattanooga and Knoxville, there are going to be people during the day, but then a lot of what goes on in the downtown is actually people coming in from the suburbs, driving in, whether it's to go to an event, whether it's to go to dinner, or just come and hang out in the downtown. So it's a little bit more of just an entertainment area, but it does have more of a livable feeling than downtown Knoxville does. So Chattanooga, the riverfront, like I said, one of the really cool features of it, you have Coolidge Park over here on the north side, which is a cool park that sits right along the river. Over here on the south side, you have the Tennessee Aquarium. Really nice aquarium, beautiful area sitting right along the riverfront, and then a really nice aquarium itself. Up here, just up from the aquarium, you have the Bluffview Arts District. So some cool art studios, restaurants, coffee shops, and that's a really cool area, beautiful views out over the river. So that whole riverfront area, you also have a cool walking bridge called Walnut Street Bridge that connects one side of the river to the other. So it's a very walkable area, a very cool area to hang out, and a lot of different stuff to do kind of around the riverfront. And then there's a lot of other cool areas of Chattanooga. You have, for example, an area over on the south side called Warehouse Row, where it's, an old warehouse that's been converted into, cool shopping, dining, restaurants, different kind of things in that area where you would just kind of go for an afternoon or an evening to hang out, whether it's to go to the coffee shop, whether it's to do some shopping, stores like Lululemon, Anthropologie, all that kind of stuff, and great restaurants as well. So, and then other cool areas around there. You also have the North Shore area. So North Shore is right over here. This is actually where you're going to have the Whole Foods and the Publix. It's a little bit of that area that's pretty much completely walkable. If you wanted to live in an area where you can walk to your grocery store, walk to everything you need. It's also, got a bunch of other stuff in that area. And then just up the hill from there is where you start to get into some of just the single family homes. And a lot of these homes are going to be, really, really cool, more historic homes. They're going to be walkable to that downtown North Shore area, or super convenient if you want to drive. They're going to have those views out over the city. So that's a super cool area if you want to live kind of right next to downtown, but not truly in downtown. But I know for a lot of people, you might want to go to the downtown just to visit every now and then, but you're really going to be wanting to live out in one of the suburbs or one of the surrounding small towns. So we're going to check those out as well. And if you're wondering who I am, my name is Forrest McCullough, and my real estate team has helped hundreds of people make the move right here to Tennessee. And we have actually developed a framework to help people decide which part of Tennessee would be the best fit for them, because as you've already seen, there's a lot of differences between Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and there's even more areas kind of between those that are really popular to move to. And so we developed a framework called the PATH framework. PATH is just 4 categories of questions, and it really helps you narrow down which area could be the best fit for your lifestyle. And we actually, on our website, you can actually fill out the PATH framework. It just takes a couple minutes, and we'll actually give you personalized recommendations based on your answers to these questions on which one of these areas could be the best fit for you. So if you want to fill that out, you can simply scan the QR code on the screen here or click a link. There'll be a link to it down in the description, and that'll simply take you to that webpage where you can fill out those 4 questions. Just give us an idea of what you're looking for as far as do you want mountains nearby, lakes nearby? Do you want a certain type of amenities, certain shopping, restaurants? Do you want to be in a downtown area or more rural area? So that's super easy to do if you want a personalized list of recommendations. And it will also give you an option if you want to book a call with us so we can actually talk through all this with you and help you evaluate these different options. It'll give you an option to book a call after you submit those answers. You can simply book a call on the calendar. Choose a day and time that works for you, and we'll be happy to talk through that with you. And if it is easier for you, simply shoot us a text at the number on the screen here, and we'll get right back with you. But moving on from the downtown areas, we're gonna take a look at the different suburbs that are kind of close to the downtowns. So Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, kind of seeing the differences between the regions with the mountains on the east side. Nashville, obviously, a ton of cool stuff to do in the downtown area, but a lot of people are interested in living in the suburbs or one of the surrounding small towns. So we'll take a look at the Nashville area first. And zooming back in on here, you can kind of see where a lot of the development is. So you have downtown Nashville right here. Up in this area, this is East Nashville, kind of towards the east and the north. Over on this side, you actually have the International Airport right there. You have some more industrial areas right here. Down here, you have a lot of neighborhoods, kind of the more historic neighborhoods. And then over on this side, there's really not that much development. It's a more hilly area, and there's not a whole lot over there. But East Nashville up here, this is one of those areas where you're gonna have a lot of the more historic homes built back in the early 1900s, about 100 years old. So really cool historic homes with a lot of character. And then as far as the businesses that are gonna be in that area, it's gonna be a lot of local businesses, a lot of local restaurants, a lot of local coffee shops and things like that. So that is kind of the vibe of that East Nashville side, a lot of local businesses, the cool historic homes. And then it is kind of a developing area, and there's some new homes going in there. So it's a cool area to be with a little bit of new development coming in, new businesses coming in, but still a lot of that local feeling and a lot of that historic character. Down on the south side, you have some more of those more historic neighborhoods. Over here, you have an area called 12 South. 12 South has a cool kind of historic commercial area. And when I say historic, it's just those older buildings, or a lot of the buildings are older that have been converted into restaurants, coffee shops, different shops and things like that. And then there's new development in there as well. So that 12 South area with the shopping and the dining is a really cool area. People will kind of come from all around just as a little destination there. But then the surrounding neighborhoods are really nice as well with the more historic homes. So that's a cool area where you can have that cool shopping and dining area kind of right there in your neighborhood. And then a lot of those cool historic homes kind of as you go out from that area. And there are several other neighborhoods as you look through here that kind of have that similar feel. 12 South right here, you have Hillsboro, West End, Richland, West End over here, Sylvan Park up here. And all these neighborhoods have those more historic homes with a lot of character, beautiful landscaping everywhere, mature trees. So that's kind of, that area is more the historic suburb feel, which is really cool. And then as we move further out, you'll see there is more new development. If you're looking for more new development, that's gonna be a little bit further out. But if you're looking for that more historic feel, then these are some really cool areas for that. As you move just a little bit further out, you get to some areas that still more historic homes, so they're starting to get a little bit more new development out here. But you have the Green Hills area right here. And one of the important things to know about this area is there's a huge shopping area in the middle. It has all the grocery stores you can need. It has a large shopping mall, tons of different boutique stores. It's got all kinds of stores like Lululemon, Anthropologie, and I know I always mention those, but those are just brands that everybody's familiar with. And then a lot of other stuff right there in that shopping area. So if you want to live in an area that's super convenient to a ton of shopping, again, a bunch of restaurants down there as well, then the Green Hills area, you're going to be able to get a little bit of that still historic suburb feel, but a ton of the more modern amenities with that large shopping development. The homes in here are still going to have more of that historic character. So you're going to have the mature landscaping, the large trees, really a pretty area to live. And then just to the west of that, you're going to have an area called Belle Meade. And Belle Meade, really this whole area is going to be one of the most affluent areas in Tennessee. Belle Meade is especially one of the most affluent areas. So you're going to have a ton of beautiful homes. Some of these homes are on really large lots, 2, 3, 4, some of them 10, 15 acre lots, large estate homes. A lot of the homes in here are going to be in the really like the 1 million plus range at the minimum, but a lot of them are going to be in the 5 million plus range. Some of the homes in here have sold recently for 10 to 20 million. So it's a very affluent area, absolutely beautiful with the landscaping, the trees, just absolutely beautiful area. But really this whole area around, from 12 South over to Belle Meade, Green Hills, It kind of gives you that suburb feel, so a little bit more quiet than the city, but still a little bit more historic with a lot of character. And then the Green Hills shopping area right in the middle, so a ton of conveniences. You also have some really nice nature preserves over here. Over here on the left, you have Warner Park, and then you have Radnor Lake State Park over here. And these are really large nature preserves with walking trails, miles and miles of walking trails. Radnor Lake State Park has a lake right there in the middle of it. So you can be in these neighborhoods in just a few minute drive to get over to these cool nature preserves. A lot of golf courses in this area as well. So beautiful area, ton of amenities. And at the same time, you're gonna have those large nature preserves right next to you as well. Moving over to Knoxville. Knoxville is much smaller, obviously, less than half the size of Nashville, so not as many neighborhoods and suburbs. But Knoxville, you're gonna have downtown Knoxville right here. This is East Knoxville, obviously over on the east side, North Knoxville up here, South Knoxville over here, and then West Knoxville kind of spreads way out over there. But North Knoxville and East Knoxville here, you're gonna have a lot of those historic homes built back in the early 1900s. North Knoxville, you're also gonna have a kind of walkable area with a grocery store. You're gonna have different restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. So if you wanna live in one of those historic areas where it's actually walkable to some of those different things, North Knoxville is really one of the best places in Knoxville to get that. Over here on the south side, there's an area called Sevier Avenue, and that is really one of the up and coming areas of Knoxville, bringing in different restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, and there's also a grocery store that's getting ready to come in there. So that grocery store over on the north side and then the grocery store on the south side, both fairly small grocery stores. So, you know, if you're expecting something really large scale like a Publix or something, still probably not gonna get that right next to downtown Knoxville. But if you do wanna live in those areas, there are gonna be at least those smaller grocery stores right there. Right next to Sevier Avenue, there are some historic neighborhoods. You have a neighborhood called Island Home. This is a beautiful historic area with, again, the mature landscaping and large trees, the larger lots, beautiful older homes. And then there's also a really cool area in South Knoxville. It's kind of over in this area called the Knoxville Urban Wilderness. And this is a huge nature preserve, miles and miles of hiking and mountain bike trails. There's actually a section of it that's, you know, world-class mountain bike trails. The city has done a great job of creating a mountain bike area and then just that large nature preserve. So that's a really cool area. It's just about 5 minutes, probably about 10 minutes realistically to get into downtown. Although from the very edge of it, it really is probably closer to 5 minutes. So super close into downtown. So if you live in South Knoxville, you can be within 5 minutes to downtown, within just a couple minutes to get over to that urban wilderness. So that's a cool area to live if you love those outdoor activities. As you move out to the west from downtown, the first thing you come to is the University of Tennessee. So you don't have any of those neighborhoods on the west side that are walkable to downtown because you have the university that kind of separates it. But the first neighborhood that you come to is, the first big neighborhood is Sequoia Hills. It sits right here, just about 5 minutes out from downtown. It sits right along the Tennessee River and it has a beautiful park right along the river. This is one of the prettiest neighborhoods with the park, the rolling hills, along the river, the historic homes, just the landscaping. And so that's an absolutely beautiful neighborhood, has the greenway that runs through it. But there's a couple significant things about West Knoxville that I want to point out. Number one is right through here, you have a ton of shopping and other commercial things, you know, restaurants, everything like that. So the shopping and dining areas of West Knoxville are going to be way bigger than anything you're going to find on any of the other sides. So over on the north side, you have a little bit. South and east, you really don't have a whole lot. And so if you want to be next to some larger shopping areas and more dining options and things like that, there's going to be a ton more on the west side than there are on any of the other sides of Knoxville. So if you want to be in a really convenient area, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people will move to that side is all the shopping and dining options. The other thing about it is you have Fort Loudon Lake over here on this side. Really runs all the way down here. And then you have Melton Hill Lake over here on this side. So if you want to be close to a lake, then there's a ton of neighborhoods that sit along the lakes over in West Knoxville as well. So West Knoxville, you got the lakes, you got all the shopping and dining, and it's a really convenient area if you want those outdoor activities with the lakes, but to still be close to all those shopping options. As you get further out here, you get more of a mix of newer development with those older neighborhoods. Right in this area, you're gonna have a cool area that's not as developed. So the homes through here are going to be on much larger pieces of property. You have communities like Harrison Keep, which is going to have some large estate homes, huge pieces of property, absolute privacy. So that's a really pretty area where you can be right next to the lake, close to downtown, close to all the shopping, but still have a ton of seclusion and privacy. And then the Knoxville airport is actually in the adjacent county, sits right over here, but that's actually just about 20 minutes from downtown, about 20 minutes from West Knoxville. So it is in the next county over, but still really convenient. And then moving down to Chattanooga. So again, about an hour and 45 minutes to get down to Chattanooga from Knoxville. And of course, Chattanooga is going to have some of those more historic neighborhoods closer to downtown. Over here on the south side, you have actually the South Side Historic District, which is going to have a cool commercial area with some shopping and restaurants, and then you're going to have those historic homes. And so that's a really walkable area to live. I already mentioned the North Shore area with the neighborhoods that kind of stretch up the hill there. Again, that area that's kind of walkable with the historic homes. North Chattanooga over here is going to be one of the areas that's a little bit more of a suburb feel as you get a little bit further out. You have Chattanooga Country Club down here that sits along the river, and then these neighborhoods back up through here. So this is one of those areas, if you want to be really close to downtown but want a little more of a quiet suburb feel and kind of have that country club lifestyle, then that's what you're going to get over there in North Chattanooga. As I mentioned before, one of the things that really stands out about Chattanooga is the mountains that run right there next to downtown, and a couple of the communities that are really close to downtown sit right there on top of those mountains. So you have Lookout Mountain right here, and that's going to be about a 15-minute drive if you live there to get over into downtown. Lookout Mountain, you're going to have that kind of historic neighborhood feel, but the really cool thing is you're literally up there on top of a mountain. So, it's kind of the areas of Nashville that you saw with those historic neighborhoods. This is kind of that same feel, but it's just a mountaintop community, which makes it really cool. So out over one side, you have views out over downtown. The other side, views out over the valley. If you look over here, this is the Tennessee River Gorge, and that's the Tennessee River that cuts through the mountains there. So there's some neighborhoods that kind of sit over there, a few neighborhoods, not very many, but the views out over that river gorge are absolutely incredible. Up there on Lookout Mountain, you're gonna have really some of the most affluent areas, some of the most expensive homes in Chattanooga that sit along the brow, which is the edge of that mountain, and look out with the view. So those homes that have that view are really going to be some of the highest end homes, and some of the highest end communities in Chattanooga are going to be those mountaintop communities. Over in Knoxville, a lot of the high end communities are the lakeside. So, the lakes are kind of the big deal over in Knoxville. Chattanooga, these mountaintop communities are a big deal. Signal Mountain up here is another mountain where you're going to have that neighborhood up on top of it. And it's really a whole town up there. You have schools, you're going to have a small grocery store, you're going to have restaurants and coffee shops, and same thing over on Lookout Mountain, the restaurants and coffee shops, not a whole lot, but you are gonna have some up there. So having those mountaintop communities right next to Chattanooga is super cool. If you want a newer development, there's a new development called Black Creek that's just about 10 minutes out from downtown as well, where it's mountaintop, and you can also build a new home up there. They have new homes that are available for sale, but if you're wanting to build a custom home, brand new, there are plenty of lots left available. So there are historic mountaintop communities, new mountaintop communities. And then the next thing to know about Chattanooga is where the larger shopping areas are. So over in Knoxville, we saw those larger shopping areas over on the west side. In Chattanooga here, you have one over here, Hamilton Place, and you have Northgate Mall up here in Hickson. And so in Knoxville, a lot of the top areas are going to be over on the west side. In Chattanooga, a lot of the top areas are these mountaintop communities, but to get over to those shopping areas, you're kind of going to the other side of town. So that's where the larger shopping areas are located. Of course, you have grocery stores over here at the foot of Lookout Mountain. You have a Publix down there. You're gonna have grocery stores closer to Signal Mountain as well. But if you wanna get over to those larger shopping areas, then you're gonna be going over to Hamilton Place or to Northgate. Hamilton Place is gonna be where you're gonna have things like Whole Foods, Target, Trader Joe's, and a ton of other stuff. Over in Northgate, you're gonna have a Target and a Walmart, an indoor shopping mall, a ton of other stuff. You're not gonna have a Whole Foods up there, but if you do wanna get to that type of store, there is a Whole Foods, like I mentioned, over here in downtown. So that's kind of the shopping layout of Chattanooga. It's a little bit more spread out than some of the other areas. If you live in some of the top communities around Chattanooga, it can be a little bit further to get over to the top shopping areas. And then the other thing to point out is the Chattanooga Airport is right over here. So the Chattanooga Airport is fairly small. you're going to have a connecting flight usually to most places around the country. But the good thing about the Chattanooga and the Knoxville airport is it's really easy to get in and out. Usually only takes a few minutes from the time you check in to get through TSA and everything. So you're usually going to have to connect through somewhere, but really easy to get in and out. Knoxville actually does have quite a few direct flights around the country. A lot of places in Florida, you can fly direct to New York and Dallas and Vegas. So there are some direct flights, but for a lot of places, you're going to connect through Atlanta. So far we have covered the downtown areas and some of those more historic surrounding suburbs, and we're gonna look at some of the surrounding small towns, because I know for a lot of you guys, you wanna be as far away from town as possible. You wanna be in a small town where you get your privacy and you're quiet, but you still wanna have some of those amenities associated with the bigger city. So we're gonna look at some of those smaller towns around these areas. But I know this is a lot of information that we're covering, so if you want my team's help kind of going through this on a personalized one-on-one level, just simply fill out that path framework by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description, and we can go through this with you personally. So if that sounds like it would be helpful, just click that link or scan the QR code, or you can simply shoot us a text at the number on the screen here. But we'll look at some of these areas that are a little bit further out. We'll go start with Chattanooga this time. So Chattanooga, you have one of the more popular areas, and the areas I'm going to cover are areas that are growing quickly because people are moving to them. So you're going to have more new construction in these areas. You're going to have, sometimes they'll have their own small town center, that historic downtown area, but then kind of the newer construction, some of the historic areas. But really, the reason why a lot of people will move to these areas that are a little bit further out from town is because you want to have more peace and quiet. You don't want to deal with the traffic, but you still want the amenities of the larger city. So one of the popular areas is Ooltewah. Ooltewah is going to be just a few minutes away from Hamilton Place, so that large shopping area for Chattanooga. You're also going to have a ton of options in Ooltewah. Ooltewah is cool because it actually has a brand new town square that they've created. So that brand new town square is going to have businesses. It's going to have tons of restaurants and different stuff to do. And then you have a neighborhood associated with it. So that area is called Cambridge Square. And then you have the Cambridge Square neighborhood, which has beautiful homes, walkable to the square. So that's a really cool area. Not a lot of the modern suburbs in Tennessee have a walkable town square like that. That's actually probably the best one. Farragut over in Knoxville is developing one, but honestly, Ooltewah's is better than any one that I've ever seen. So if you want that town square area, you want that more modern suburb, you want a newer home, Ooltewah has a ton of options for that. And then over here on the other side of the lake, you have areas like Soddy Daisy. One of the things, if you live over in these areas, you're gonna have the lake right here. So if you wanna be close to the lake, or maybe in a lakeside community, you can get that over there. Soddy Daisy, really anywhere as you move up this way or out this way from town, you're gonna have more of a mix of some historic, some older, more established neighborhoods, a lot of neighborhoods that are newer. So if you're looking for newer development or a brand new home, then as you move out from town, either one of these ways, that's where you're gonna be able to find a lot of those. And then just a little bit further out, you have a small town called Cleveland. This is just about 30 minutes out from Chattanooga, still convenient to get into Chattanooga. Also has its own shopping area. It has its own downtown area as well. And then up in Knoxville, there are several areas to mention. So Knoxville, one of the things, like I mentioned, so you have those mountaintop communities over in Chattanooga. I didn't mention a lot of these specific lakeside communities, but over here in Knoxville, you have the lakes that run through here. Louisville is one of the towns that sits outside of Knoxville that sits right along the lake. This is an area where you're gonna have new neighborhoods that sit right along the lake, neighborhoods like Lashbrook. So Lashbrook is one of the really beautiful neighborhoods out there, right along the lake. Still only 20 minutes to get into Knoxville or 20 minutes to get over into Maryville. So really convenient still, but a really quiet area sitting right along the lake. So if you want a lakeside community, again, Knoxville has a ton of great lakeside communities. You have some planned communities along the lake, which are the communities that have all the amenities built right into them. You have Wind River over here, for example, which has the golf course that has a ton of amenities right there in it. Over here, you have Tennessee National along the river. Again, the golf course, a ton of amenities right there in Tennessee National. So if you want all the amenities, you want the the lakeside community, then there are some neighborhoods, some large communities around Knoxville where you're going to be able to get all those amenities and that lakeside lifestyle. But one of the other really popular towns is Farragut, and Farragut is actually in Knox County, but it's its own town. It has its own jurisdiction. It has some of the highest rated schools. It's got some of the top shopping areas with Turkey Creek, one of the really large shopping areas. Sits right there next to the lake, some beautiful new neighborhoods. So if you are, one of those people that really want all the amenities right there and you want top rated schools, that's what makes Farragut one of the most popular areas. You have Hardin Valley just right next to Farragut. So you have a ton of new development over in Hardin Valley. If you want a brand new home, but you don't want to be right in Farragut, you can still be super convenient to all those amenities over there. Get a brand new home over in Hardin Valley. Maryville is one of the really popular towns. Maryville is going to be a small town feel. So one of the things to point out is you have these major cities, Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, and they are the county seat for their county. So Knoxville is the county seat for Knox County, obviously. And then you have all these surrounding counties. And what you find is each one of these surrounding counties is going to have one main town kind of towards the middle of it that's the county seat. And that's where, the county courthouse is. And the thing that's important about it is when those were developed, a couple hundred years ago, all those, county seats had that cool town square built into them. So whenever you look at kind of like that classic southern town square with a courthouse in the middle, and then the square around it, the businesses out there, the restaurants, and it's kind of like that unifying area of the town. Most of the towns in Tennessee, at least around these cities that we're talking about that have that, the reason they have that is because they're the county seat for that adjacent county. So for example, you have Blount County over here, and then Maryville is the county seat for Blount County. So Maryville is a super popular place because it has that small town feel. It has that historic downtown area, but it also has some of the top rated schools in the state. And then it also has amenities with a small shopping mall. It has all kinds of stuff, Target, Publix, a bunch of other stuff. And then it's still convenient to get over into Knoxville as well, just about 25 minutes away. So if you want that small town feel, you want the top rated schools, a little bit more peace and quiet than being over in Knoxville or Farragut, then somewhere like Maryville is a really good choice. And Maryville really ends up being one of the top choices around Knoxville because it's one of the ones that's closest in. It has the most amenities. It has one of the nicest downtowns for a small town. And so that's what makes Maryville one of the top choices. You also have Lenoir City over here, which is another small town. Loudon is actually the county seat for that county, but Lenoir City has its own little downtown area. There's a lot of new development in Lenoir City as well. There's some new neighborhoods like Farmstead over here, built by Turner Homes, a bunch of new neighborhoods in that area. And so again, if you're looking for that new development and you want to be out in the suburbs, a little bit further out from town, being a little bit quieter area, then Lenoir City is one of the places to get that. And then over in Nashville, there's going to be a bunch of places to look at. Being the largest metro, Chattanooga is the smallest, Nashville is the largest. It's going to have the most to look at as far as small towns around the area. The first one to mention has got to be Franklin. Franklin is the county seat for Williamson County. Williamson County, I kind of mentioned that this area south of Nashville, those more historic suburbs, a very affluent area. Well, Williamson County here, where Franklin is the county seat, Williamson County is one of the most affluent counties in the state. And so what that means is there's a ton of amenities there. There are a ton of beautiful neighborhoods. Really a lot of the high-end, newer neighborhoods are going to be in this area. But not only do you have kind of the modern amenities, Franklin itself has that historic downtown. Being the county seat, it has that historic downtown with the town square. You're going to have all the businesses that kind of go out from that town square. And it's one of the most well kept up small towns. It has really the most to offer for any of the small towns. And so for people that are looking for that small town feel, but still want a ton of amenities, Franklin is for sure the number one choice. It also makes it one of the most expensive markets in the state because you have the small town charm that a ton of people want. You have some cool stuff like the Factory is a really cool development with a bunch of shopping and restaurants right next to downtown Franklin. You have beautiful farmland just outside from downtown, and then you have an area called Cool Springs, which is right over here. It's a large commercial development where you have tons of headquarters. You actually have the Nissan headquarters. You have Dave Ramsey has his headquarters over in that area. You've got a ton of shopping, Costco, Whole Foods, Target, Trader Joe's, everything you need. So Franklin is going to have kind of everything plus that small town feel. And then Williamson County in general, you have Brentwood up here. So Brentwood doesn't have its own downtown. It's just more of that suburb feel. But some of the top neighborhoods, this whole area, Williamson County has some of the top golf courses, some of the top neighborhoods. And so if you want an area where you're just going to get a beautiful home, beautiful neighborhood, have tons of amenities surrounding you, then Williamson County is probably one of the most ideal spots in the state to get that. Moving down just a little bit further, you have Spring Hill and Thompson Station, and those kind of sit right on the border of Williamson County and the next county down. But Spring Hill and Thompson Station are they're suburbs of Nashville. They're part of the Nashville metro, but they're honestly pretty far to get into downtown, close to an hour. But they're only about 25 to 30 minutes to get into Franklin and into Cool Springs. So Spring Hill and Thompson Station are almost kind of like a suburb of Franklin. They also have a bunch to offer right there in the towns themselves, shopping options and everything like that. But this is one of the fastest growing areas in the state, a ton of new development. So if you're looking for a brand new home, you want new development, you want, top rated schools, shopping, close access to Franklin, then Spring Hill and Thompson Station are a great option for that. Just a little bit further down, you have Columbia, which is a small town where you get that small town downtown area. Again, about an hour to get up into Nashville, so more of almost a suburb of Franklin, but it has everything right there in the town that you need. It's just if you want to get to more options, you can go up to Franklin. You also have Murfreesboro over here. Murfreesboro is actually a pretty good sized city, but it is a suburb of Nashville. So Murfreesboro has that town square, but it also has some really large shopping areas. It has, tons of healthcare options. So Murfreesboro in itself is a pretty large city, has essentially anything that you could possibly need right there in the city, but it is just about 40 to 45 minutes to get up into Nashville as well. Over here towards the east side, you have a couple of nice suburbs. This area right here, Mount Juliet, one of the things that stands out about it, it's a similar distance to get into downtown as Brentwood and some of these parts of Williamson County, but prices are a little bit lower. So if you want to get relatively close to downtown, but have prices a little bit lower, you can find that over in Mount Juliet. It also has two lakes. You have Old Hickory and Percy Priest right here. So you've got those lakes nearby, but that's a great area. Again, a ton of amenities with shopping. You have Providence Marketplace, a ton of shopping options, and then a lot of new construction homes. There's also lake homes out in that area. There's also some of the more established homes that are kind of out in the country in a more rural area, homes on larger lots. So you can get your privacy out there, or you can get in one of those brand new developments. And then just on the other side of that lake, you have Hendersonville. And this is one of the other kind of modern suburbs of Nashville. Again, fairly close to get into downtown, but a ton of amenities. You have a huge shopping development with literally anything you could need, from Costco to the smaller stores, all kinds of restaurant options. And you have the lake right there as well. So some of the really nice lakeside communities. And then you also have, really nearby, once you get out into the country a little bit, that more rural setting, homes on those nice large lots. You're going to have, all kinds of privacy. So both of these, Mount Juliet and Hendersonville, are two of the top suburbs to be able to get fairly close into Nashville, but not pay prices that are quite as high as down here in Williamson County. So that's really what highlights those two, plus the lakes being right there nearby. And then you also have Gallatin right here and a town called Lebanon right here. Those are the two county seats for those counties that sit over there. So you get that cool town square for both of those areas. Both of these are also going to have a lot of new construction. And again, prices are going to be a little bit lower here than down in Williamson County. But one of the cool things about Gallatin, you have some of these really nice lakeside communities. So if you want to have one of the top lakeside communities and be close to Nashville, then some of those are right up there in the Gallatin and Hendersonville area. A ton of those really nice lakeside communities over in Knoxville. But over in Nashville, if you want to be in one of those top lakeside communities, that's the area where those are going to be. Actually, Percy Priest Lake down here, a lot of people ask about that. You're not allowed to build on that lake. So that, it's regulated by the TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, whether or not you can build on certain lakes, and you can't build on that lake. So really, if you want to be lakeside and in the Nashville area, somewhere around Old Hickory Lake is going to be the place to be. So those are some of the highlights of the Nashville area. And again, I know this is a ton of stuff. If you want my team to actually walk through all this stuff personally with you, you can simply fill out that path framework on our website, scan the QR code here, click the link in the description, just fill out those 4 questions, and we will get back to you with an email with personalized suggestions. And it will also give you the option, once you fill out those questions, it'll give you the option to actually book a call with us. So we can get on a Zoom call, go through those questions with you, go through those answers, and help you identify, which area of Tennessee would be the best fit for you, or if you already know which area you want to be in, which suburb, which community, which neighborhood could be the best fit for you. So whatever's easier for you, you can scan that QR code, click the link down in the description, or send us a text at the number on the screen here. Whichever one's easier for you. If that sounds like it would be helpful to have my team give you those suggestions. I know this is a lot of information. If that sounds like it'd be helpful to get personalized suggestions or get on a Zoom call and go through those questions with you one-on-one, any one of those ways will take you to that webpage, whether you scan the QR code, click the link, or shoot us a text, and we look forward to connecting with you.